Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, but not good night. The intention of this video is to compare B2 and C1, use of English, part 1, multiple choice cloze. The best way to explain it is using real exams provided by Cambridge's official website, including its answers. B2 offers certificate. What is genealogy? C1 or advanced. New uses for salt mines. We know that this exercise is like choosing the right piece for a puzzle. It's not only knowing what a word means, but also when and how it is used. Therefore, the grammatical structure is as important as its meaning. For example, in exercise 1, we want the word en lugar de and it is offered instead, but instead is followed by of, and rather with the same meaning is followed by than, and for that reason B is correct. So if we just think of the meaning, the first one we would choose would be instead, but if we look at the grammar, it would be rather, because instead of is the one we normally use in our daily life speaking in English. This reason we have to identify if it is a word or it's part of a whole. In case it is not a single word, as the word that it is followed by is essential to choose the correct one. Same happens in the second exercise, as after the gap there is in, and the only word that can be followed by in is C, result in. If it's an individual word, then it's the context which provides which is the correct one. For example, in exercise 3, it would be access because it's talking about the internet, and the internet permits people to access information. Same happens in exercise 8 because you participate in a survey. Or for example, geology reveals if you have famous ancestors. There are also fixed common expressions, for example, without great expense, which means without spending a lot of money. In 7, you have further back. We always say further back in time. Same reasoning is to be carried out in C1. Related to distractors, B2 offer obvious wrong answers. For example, we know that we have to use instead of, so C and D would be ruled out immediately. Or when you're doing exercise 2, the only one that sounds correct is result because it's followed by in. But if you place the other words in the gap, they do not sound natural English. You may not know the reason why, but it doesn't sound correct. In B2, you already know the difference between fee, price, charge. So they use vocabulary that you may have used in other contexts. Let's compare now what we know about B2 and its reasoning to C1. Let's look at those words that are not single but form part of a whole. For example, there's a preposition after 5, so, and there's for, exploited, for, extracted, for, exposed, to, or extended, for. So, dealing with the preposition that it is followed by, all of them are correct except exposed. Whereas in B2, it could only be one due to the preposition. In exercise 6, in can be followed by two, profitable or beneficial. So now it's necessary to pay attention to the meaning in order to know that it is beneficial and not profitable, as they are not talking about benefits in money, but benefits in health. Therefore, the distractors are less obvious. When it's a single word, it is much more closer in meaning. For example, commodity means material, but raw material, primary product that is sold and can be bought. It's giving you an extra meaning to C, material. Equivalent means identical in effect, and that's what they're doing here. Centuries ago, it was the commercial equivalent of today's oil. In both, they're giving you an extra information in the meaning in order to fit in the gap and its context. In fixed expressions, we can make reference to highly regarded, meaning that they are greatly respected, admired, or valued. Dealing with phrasal verb, they will be making reference to a much formal context. So the phrasal verb would be more formal and less common. For example, turn over in B2 would mean darse la vuelta. However, here in C1, it means transfer. Some misused minds have been transferred to other enterprises, other companies. As you see, C1 has the same reasoning than B2. However, the distractors are not obvious and do not help us decide which is the correct one, but sometimes even confuses us more. Hope I've helped you understand the difference between B2 and C1, multiple choice cloze. And remember, this exercise sometimes is eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Pito, pito, gorgorito. So don't worry if that is the case. Bye-bye.